Last week, I came here to speak to my colleagues about the Biden administration and the FBI playing games with the American people by hiding the FBI-generated 1023 document from Congress and the American people. Director Wray was going to be held in contempt for refusing to produce the 1023 that I told Chairman Comer about, and I think I had that first conversation with Chairman Comer about 3 weeks ago. Then, instead of contempt, the FBI committed to showing the 1023 and related documents to the whole Congress. By the way, I thank Chairman Comer for his cooperation with me and how he's pursued this issue, because we know a heck of a lot more now than if he hadn't been involved in this whole effort. So the FBI showed, after the FBI committed to showing this document, they showed, but it didn't provide possession of the 1023 to the House Oversight Committee last week. And by the way, 1023 is unclassified. So why shouldn't the entire country know about what's in this 1023? As the public knows, that 1023 involves an alleged bribery scheme between then Vice President Biden, Hunter Biden, and a foreign national. The same allegations that Chairman Comer and I made public on May the 3rd of this year. And on the very same day that the FBI provided a redacted version of the 1023 to the House Oversight Committee, the Justice Department then announced that former President Trump had been indicted and charged with 37 crimes related to his alleged mishandling of classified records. Attorney General Garland signed off on prosecuting Trump for conduct similar to what Joe Biden and Hillary Clinton engaged in. Two standards of justice in this country will turn our constitutional republic upside down. Thanks to the political infections within the Biden Justice Department and the FBI, we were well along the road for that to happen. This senator will do all that he can to fight political infection in the Department of Justice and the FBI. And you fight it, then, by bringing transparency to what this government does. The public's business ought to be public. Transparency brings accountability. With respect to the 1023 shown to that House Oversight Committee, from what I've been told by folks who've reviewed it, it's filled with redactions. Now, the document that Comer and I read had maybe 2 or 3 half-inch redactions, not whole sentences redacted, as I'm told the document in the SCIF is. So, Director Wray placed redactions on a document that's already unclassified. As I've said before, unclassified. More than that, the FBI made Congress review a redacted, unclassified document in a classified facility. That goes to show you the disrespect that the FBI has for Congress. On a previous time on this Senate floor, I think I told my fellow senators that what's so unusual about an unclassified document being given to the public when, I think it was May the 18th of this year, there was leaked to the New York Times a classified document, and even the name of a confidential human source. So, we're kind of in a strange situation here. Classified document can be leaked to the New York Times, but a non-classified document can't be made public to 300 million Americans if they're interested in reading it. Now, accordingly, Congress still lacks a full and complete picture with respect to what that document really says. That's why it's important that the document be made public without unnecessary redactions for the American people to see. Can you believe redacting an unclassified document? So now, let me assist for the purposes of more transparency on this subject. The 1023 produced to the House committees redacted reference that the foreign national who allegedly bribed Joe and Hunter Biden allegedly has audio recordings of his conversation with them. 17 such recordings. According to the 1023, the foreign national possesses 15 audio recordings of phone calls between him and Hunter Biden. According to the 1023, the foreign national possesses 2 audio recordings of phone calls between him and then Vice President Joe Biden. These recordings were allegedly kept as a sort of insurance policy for the foreign national in case that he got into a tight spot. The 1023 also indicates that then Vice President Joe Biden may have been involved in bereavement employing Hunter Biden. Based on the facts known to the Congress and the public, it's clear that the Justice Department, the FBI, haven't nearly had the same laser focus on the Biden family. Special Counsel Jack Smith has used a recording against former President Trump. Well, what is U.S. Attorney Weiss doing with respect to these alleged Joe and Hunter Biden recordings that are apparently relevant to the high-stakes bribery scheme? Getting a full and complete 1023 is critical for the American people to know and understand the true nature of the document and to hold the Justice Department and the FBI accountable. It's also important for asserting constitutional congressional oversight powers against an out-of-control executive branch, obviously drunk with political infection. Remember, Congress has received 1023s in the past, and they've been made public. So asking for this 1023 to be turned over to the American people to read is not an unusual thing that goes on with 1023s. Congress owes it to the American people and the brave and heroic whistleblowers to continue to fight for transparency in this matter and make this document public without unnecessary redactions. And I want everybody to remember that I have read the unredacted version, except for a couple or 3 half-inch redactions, I'd say. Thank you very much. I yield the floor.
Okay, that's from the United States Senate. It's Monday, 12 June in the year of our Lord 2023. It didn't get any more explosive than that. Senator Grassley, a man of renowned integrity, but also a bulldog when it comes to investigation. Remember, he's not a lawyer. One of the powers of having Grassley around. Mike Davis, former senior advisor, chief of staff for, and one of the top investigators for Senator Grassley. He's going to join us here in a moment. Karoline Leavitt, you just heard there. Now the timing of all this becomes perfectly clear, does it not, Karoline Leavitt?
It absolutely does, Steve. Wow. Nothing is a coincidence in the Washington swamp. And this indictment of President Trump tomorrow, there's no crime, there's no case. It is a cover up, a coordinated, colluded cover up for Joe Biden's corrupt crime family. And if what Senator Grassley is saying is true, and he is an honorable man who would not get ahead of his skis on this, if these recordings are real, that Joe Biden, our sitting president, had recorded audio conversations with this foreign national, he is compromised beyond belief. That is treasonous behavior. And this is a man who needs to be impeached and certainly does not deserve to be on a ballot in the next election. And they are pointing the finger at Donald Trump and trying to take his name off of the ballot for something that isn't even a crime. Steve, they had a failed coup attempt in 2016 when they spied on Donald Trump's campaign. In 2020, they rigged the election by stuffing the ballot boxes and harvesting ballots. And now in 2024, they are interfering in it by trying to imprison Donald Trump. This is third world country, banana republic stuff. We, the people, cannot stand for it.
Karoline, a couple of things there. You know, we've had Congressman Mace and Boebert and others, and we're going to have them back on in the next couple of days, that have actually gone into the SCIFs. And their question is, why do we have to go into the SCIF? The SCIF over at the House is in the bottom. Why do we have to go to a SCIF and we can't take notes? The notes all have to stay in there. It's an unclassified document. The document they've seen, as Grassley just says, is redacted. They only see a redacted version. This is the House Oversight Committee. When they go to the Treasury, they can't take any notes with them. They can't take any documents with them. They have to go over there to look at all the SARS report, which, you know, is the activity report, underlined suspicious activity report that the Treasury is required by law to keep. You've got all these documents floating around, yet Ray's prepared to be held in contempt. Only at the last second did they work out some agreement, and that agreement is just to let you see a redacted version in a SCIF of an unclassified document that you treat as classified. What do you think has to happen here? Because now they are brazen in their attempts to use lawfare to shut down President Trump. And particularly, like I said, they have a little recording of some guy talking to him, and Trump don't even know what the paper is. Trump's just talking to him off the top of his head. Here, they've got a foreign national that says, I have 17 recordings. I kept them for my personal security because I didn't want to get off by these guys. I got 15 with Hunter, and I got 2 with the big guy. Your thoughts, ma'am?
Why the redactions, the additional redactions, if you aren't trying to cover up for what's within that document? And as Senator Grassley pointed out, having 1023 documents made public to the American people and bringing them before Congress is commonplace. This has happened before, but now we need redactions. Now we can't release it to the American public. It's an unclassified document. We, the people, deserve to see what is in that document. This is, again, a colluded cover-up. And you have Jack Smith out there, Joe Biden and Merrick Garland's henchmen, leading this case against Donald Trump, saying the law is applied to everyone equally. That's what he said last Friday in his press conference. Give us a break. Absolutely not. They are manipulating documents. Hillary Clinton in 2016 paid for and planted a manufactured document abusing the FISA courts. No one, the law does not equally apply. It applies one way to Donald Trump. It doesn't apply at all to Joe Biden. So the House GOP Oversight Committee, they need to continue to put the pressure on the great MAGA warriors that we have on that oversight committee. They need to continue to demand accountability, and we need to spread the word to everyday average Americans who are busy with their lives, Steve, struggling with inflation, concerned about this open border, trying to put their kids in good schools. We need every single one of those voters to understand what is at stake here in this two-tier system of justice. America is at a turning point. Our country will cease to exist unless every American wakes up and realizes this corruption, and Joe Biden is at the front of it.
Karoline, hang on for 1 second. I want everybody, 202-224-3121 is the Senate. Call Senator Grassley's office right now and give him an attaboy. That was magnificent. Let me bring in Mike Davis, who's very close to Senator Grassley. First off, Mike, tell me about Senator Grassley, the gravitas. He's not a lawyer, but tell me about how he goes about his business and how he comports himself, sir.
Well, Senator Chuck Grassley is a farmer from my home state of Iowa. He is extraordinarily hardworking. He's dogged. He hits all 99 counties every year and does town hall meetings. It's called the Full Grassley. He never loses touch with the American people, particularly the common sense people of Iowa. And that's how he is so effective, is because he knows what real Americans in the real world think. And Grassley has been the king of congressional oversight for decades, and he never oversells. And when he's on the target, you better watch out, because he's dogged and he's going to get the answers that he wants. And I've told you guys this for weeks. When Grassley says he's going to come through with evidence of misconduct from a whistleblower, you bet your behinds it will happen.
So, Mike, help me out here. This was a bombshell today. And I think the reason it's a bombshell is people know that, one, Grassley doesn't play around. Grassley doesn't promote. He doesn't overpromise. But when he walks out on the Senate floor for a 10-minute speech that we just played in its entirety, and he starts talking about the redactions that are going on in this document, the unclassified nature of it, why it's in a SCIF, and then he drops the bombshell about the foreign nationals, says they have all these tapes. What is one to make of that, sir?
I think Grassley is telling the FBI to stuff it, is what he's doing. He knows that the FBI, since 2017, has been covering for Joe Biden. They've had this evidence since 2017 that then Vice President Joe Biden took $10 million in foreign bribes, 5 to Joe, 5 to Hunter, and changed American policy. That Joe Biden bragged about getting the Ukraine president to fire a Ukraine prosecutor who was investigating Burisma, said this prosecutor was corrupt. It's actually Burisma and Joe Biden who are corrupt. And the FBI has been hiding this. It's the same goons at the FBI and Justice Department who ran Russian collusion, who've been running these operations on Trump. Trump got impeached because he asked about this corruption. Impeached because he asked about this corruption. Our FBI, our Justice Department, particularly the National Security Division and the intel components of the FBI, are rotten to the core. Grassley has known the FBI has been rotten to its core for decades, going back to Ruby Ridge. That's why he cares about this so much, because there were Iowans involved. And this is not going to end well for Joe Biden. I promise you, this will not end well for Joe Biden. If any of this evidence ends up being true, which it looks very likely it's true, considering the FBI used this whistleblower for 10 years and paid this whistleblower $200,000, there's no chance that Joe Biden can stay in office. They know this, and that is why that's why Biden and Garland unleashed this Jack Smith indictment against Trump, this bogus indictment for the non-crime of a former president having his presidential records in the office of former president, which he's allowed to do under the Presidential Records Act.
Mike, you've been on with us since 8 August about this, and you've been very consistent about what the underlying issue with this. You've also done such a magnificent job, and people know Gorsuch and Kavanaugh and all that you got through. And you've done great interpretation for us on the Supreme Court, and we're going to spend some more time with you later in the week about this, quite frankly, disturbing and blockbuster decision they made regarding Alabama, the congressional districts. You're not a conspiracy theory guy, so help our audience. You got Ukraine, you have all this situation with the Bidens and all this information and 1023s and other 1023s. You got SARS report, and these things go back to the Biden's VP, and now it's also pulled up with the laptop from hell. We had Garrett Ziegler on today. We'll have him on tomorrow about all the Chinese Communist Party. And now you got President Trump, and tomorrow he's going to walk into a federal court. Walk me through exactly where we are on this, because it's almost mind-boggling. Even for the War Room posse that follows us every day, it's almost mind-boggling what's going on.
So let's look at Grassley and Comer's investigations in the Senate and the House. They've been able to track $16 million to Joe and Hunter Biden, 10 from Burisma and 6 from just one of 11 bank accounts from Chinese oligarchs. $16 million, and they still have like 10 more bank accounts to go through. Joe Biden is compromised. Does anyone in their right mind think that Joe Biden, one of the dumbest senators and dumbest vice presidents in American history, and his crackhead son Hunter are worth $16 million or more to anyone for any other reason other than corruption. And you have to wonder, they're really big on President Trump having his presidential records in Mar-a-Lago, classified documents, they say, that he's allowed to have. What about the 5 stashes of stolen classified records that Biden had stolen from the Obama White House, even stolen from the Senate, for which there's zero excuse? Those have to be in a SCIF in the Senate. So he had these 5 stashes of stolen classified records in several different locations, moved several times, and there's evidence that a Chinese agent had access to these records. And there's evidence in the form of Miranda Devine's reporting at the New York Post that they actually used this classified information to secure millions from Ukraine. There's a 22-point memo that crackhead Hunter put together because he's such an expert in the geopolitics of Ukraine. When he's not smoking crack or painting pictures, he's an expert in Ukraine. They clearly used stolen classified information to secure millions corruptly. And so what does Biden have Garland do? Indict Trump. This is the same play they've used in 2016. Hillary got caught with her illegal home server, hacked by our worst enemies, including probably Russia, with our most classified secret. She destroyed the evidence in the face of a congressional subpoena. What did they do? They blamed Trump. Russian collusion, crossfire hurricane investigation, and the illegal Justice Department investigation for 3 years where they lied to the FISA court, got an illegal spy warrant on an American, Carter Page, and they kept this going to deflect from the facts that Hillary was worried that Russia was going to leak this damning information that the Clinton Foundation was taking foreign bribes before the 2016 election. Look at 2020. Joe Biden is caught. The FBI knows from 2017 about these corrupt foreign dealings, including foreign bribery, $10 million in foreign bribery. The FBI has known about this since 2017. 2020, the New York Post, America's oldest newspaper, is going to report that about this corruption found on Hunter Biden's laptop. What do 51 former intel goons do? They collude with the CIA and probably the Justice Department to say that this was Russian disinformation. If the American people knew about this laptop, the polls show there's no chance that Biden would be in the White House today. And look what's happening now. Biden's caught red-handed with audio tapes from an FBI informant. They've paid $200,000. So what do? They indict Trump because he had they did the home raid on Trump because he declassified via presidential memo the day before he left office and lawfully retained the Crossfire Hurricane presidential records that blew all this up. If you thought Durham's unclassified report was bad for Obama, Biden, Hillary, the deep state, just imagine what the classified version shows.
It's almost mind-boggling. Mike, there's so much more I want to ask you, but we'll save it for tomorrow and the next day. I know you're incredibly busy. Want to thank you for doing this. Just one more time. Grassley, because people have seen Grassley in judiciaries, not many people have really seen Grassley in action in investigations. He's like a dog with a bone.
Man, if you look at Comer and Grassley, I call it Luke Skywalker and Obi-Wan Kenobi. Chuck Grassley is the Obi-Wan Kenobi of congressional oversight. No one is better than Chuck Grassley, and he has a mentee in James Comer, and it's working out pretty well. We are uncovering the facts that the President of the United States is compromised by corrupt foreign bribes and corrupt foreign dealings. How much more money is Joe Biden going to send to Ukraine? I mean, this $10 million is the best investment that these Ukrainian oligarchs ever made.
Mike Davis, thank you very much. How do people get to your site and your social media now more than ever?
Article3project.org, article number 3project.org. You can donate there as we're gearing up for this fight against Trump and for Trump and against Biden. At Article 3 Project, at article number 3 Project on Getter, Twitter, Truth, and my personal is at MRDDMIA, at MRDDMIA. Thank God for Elon Musk, because I would definitely be booted off of Twitter permanently right now. So cheers to him.
Thank you, sir. I don't totally share all that, but I see where you're coming from directionally. Thank you, Mike. Appreciate it. Let me, brother, talk to you tomorrow. The Mike Davis. Let's play. I want to play. I'm going to have Karoline hang through the break. I want to play this spot that's coming from Karoline's group. Let's go and play it.
They've been after Trump from the beginning. But
questions swirl around President Biden's handling of classified documents.
Found in President Biden's garage
multiple classified documents.
You and the former president are both now under investigation by the Justice Department.
But they didn't indict Biden. Instead, Biden's DOJ went after Trump. Anything to block him from becoming president again. Stand with President Trump against Biden's corruption. Make America Great Again Inc. is responsible for the content of this advertising.
Karoline, give me 30 seconds. I'm going to have you hold through the break. You guys are now on offense, full on offense. Is that correct?
Yes, we will continue to be on offense to expose the corruption of Joe Biden's family and to also expose the complicity of every other Republican contender in this primary challenge so that the American people continue to understand that it is only Donald Trump that the swamp in D.C. is attacking, and it is only Donald Trump that will save America from the swamp in D.C.
Okay, we'll take a short break. I'm going to have Karoline just hang on for a few minutes. I've got Terry Schilling is going to join me, and Brandon is going to join us from the Christian Post. Very disturbing activity over the weekend at the White House, and a very disturbing admission by the Associated Press. We're going to get to all of it. Take a short commercial break. We're going to show you the desecration of Old Glory at the White House next.
After Trump from the beginning, but
questions swirl around President Biden's handling of classified documents.
Found in President Biden's garage
Multiple classified documents.
You and the former president are both now under investigation by the Justice Department.
But they didn't indict Biden. Instead, Biden's DOJ went after Trump. Anything to block him from becoming president again. Stand with President Trump against Biden's corruption. Make America Great Again Inc. is responsible for the content of this advertising.
Karoline Leavitt, fantastic. You're doing. Here's why. As you know, the War Room, we're not going to play defense here. We're going to support. There's so many other good shows doing this. You know, doing every iteration and every small thing in this case. We're not interested. It's a phony case. It's trumped up. It's not. It's boring. It's not interesting. And we're not going to play their game. We're going on full offense all the time. And that's why today, in the press room of the White House, the CNN correspondent sat right there and asked Zen Master Jean-Pierre, hey, you got Andy Biggs saying eye for an eye, you know, going Old Testament. You got Bannon saying we're at war. You know, you got Kerry Lake talking about the NRA. What's going on here? Yeah. Okay. We understand what's going on, and we're not going to sit here and allow President Trump to get eviscerated by these demons, and that's what they are. Karoline Leavitt, any closing thoughts? We're going to have Karoline back on tomorrow. Karoline, any closing thoughts, observations?
Yes, Steve. The Democrats are masters at projection. Back in 2016, they accused Donald Trump of colluding with the Russians. It was actually Hillary Clinton who was colluding with the Russians and taking foreign bribes. 2020, they said Donald Trump was a threat to democracy, trying to suppress the vote. They actually threatened our democracy by rigging the election and pumping the ballot boxes with fake votes. Now it's 2024. They're interfering again, accusing Donald Trump of mishandling classified documents, putting our national security at risk. It's been Joe Biden who has been engaged in corruption, selling out America's national security for decades, with his corrupt son Hunter as his business partner. It's all a scam. Everything they say is a lie. We will continue to go on offense and expose the truth about Joe Biden's corruption, and we will continue to expose all of the fake Republicans who are complicit in these lies and are not standing up, but holding water for the corrupt Biden DOJ. Donald Trump is the only one who will save this country from this corruption.
You met her during her congressional race. We knew her at the White House. She's a fighter, and she's from the Granite State. And in Granite State, they live free or die. That's the motto of those great folks up there. Karoline Leavitt, social media. How do people track you, ma'am?
K Leavitt, New Hampshire, Twitter, True Social Getter. Also follow us at MAGA Inc. War Room. That is our rapid response account. And go to magapack.com. Thanks, Steve. I'll see you tomorrow.
I want everybody to sign up for that. Thank you very much, Karoline. Appreciate it. Look forward to tomorrow. Okay, I got two other fighters. I got Showalter and Schilling. Brandon, here's what I want to do. I'll put the image. If Memphis could put the image up, there's a desecration over the weekend, a desecration at our White House with the beloved Old Glory. Look at that. Play this right here. As God is my witness, when I saw that, I thought it was photoshopped. I said, this can't be going on. You know, people are making this up. That's the gay pride flag right there between Old Glory and the flag of the United States of America is always supposed to be in the most preeminent position. You never break it up like that. Take it off. I can't look at it anymore. It's a disgrace. These people have desecrated our flag. They desecrate all the symbols of our society and our culture. And now you got Brandon. I want to bring you in because your story in the Christian Post, this thing with the Associated Press. This is insanity. I thought the Associated Press was the preeminent news service in the world for just giving it to you straight. What is going on? You've caught them out on something, sir.
Well, it's very interesting because I think it goes hand in hand with the flag that you were speaking of. If it's just further evidence of how they have colonized and conquered our country, particularly, and it's actually the progress flag, the trans. Of course, it's a rainbow flag, but it has that triangle in there, which represents the transgender movement. The AP, the Associated Press, has just recently issued new guidelines for covering transgender issues. And they are now saying that, now keep in mind, they used to be, grammar and syntax and sort of the basics of journalistic etiquette. Now they are actually saying, the AP is saying that you cannot even use the word transgenderism. You can't even discuss the ism, because discussing the ism frames a trans identity as though it's an ideology. So they are taking an overtly ideological position.
Oh, hang on, because the style book, when the AP lays it out, you're saying the style book, that all of a sudden tells you what's appropriate in writing news articles, and all the way down to high school kids working in the newspaper, the Columbia University, University of Missouri, all
Gold
of them.
standard.
Walk the audience through again. Why is this so powerful?
The Associated Press, the AP Style Guide, is considered in the United States, widely considered the gold standard in journalistic etiquette, journalistic rules of decorum. It is revered. Every major news, network follows this style guide as to how, what words should be used, what is consistent with American journalism. It is the gold standard. And so now they are taking an overtly ideological position to say that you're not even to say the word transgenderism. You are to say sex is assigned at birth, because sometimes sex can be assigned incorrectly by doctors in attendance. They are actually saying that human sex might be wrong at birth. And they're saying they're actually even cautioning against publications like mine, the Christian Post, who say, who are opponents of, I think the phrasing was, youth transgender medical treatment. If you scrutinize puberty blockers, cross-sex hormones, and these body disfiguring surgeries like mastectomies for young girls or phalloplasties where they harvest tissue from their forearm to make a fake penis, those publications like mine use widely discredited research. And so we're just to ignore that. They are actively taking a position with the transgender lobby. And again, this is a big deal because they are widely considered the gold standard of American journalistic standards.
Brandon, hang on for 1 second. I want to bring in Terry again. Terry, and by the way, can we put the flag up? Brandon does a good. It's not a pride flag. It's the next level from the pride flag. Schilling, what is going on here, brother? You got AP with the style book. You've got this right in your grill with this festivity that they had on the White House with this flag. Walk me through what's going on, brother.
Steve, they're losing. They are losing, and they're not just like losing the court of public opinion. They're losing their minds. New Gallup poll today came out and showed that since 2021, the nation has moved 7 points more towards the good guys' side, towards not allowing boys to compete in girls' sports, towards not believing that there are more than two genders. Even among Democrats, Steve, it went from 55% saying that biological males who claim to be women in 2021, 55%. It's now 48% among Democrats. Steve, they're losing their own party. And so these are people that are grasping at straws. They're scratching. This is what I call cornered rat syndrome. And this is what we're dealing with. They're going to get more nastier. They're going to get more aggressive. It's going to get worse over the next few years until we take back the White House and really start reversing the tide here.
When you say get worse, what do you mean get worse? I know I agree with you, we're winning, but man, it is the craziest stuff I've ever seen. The stuff you see out there, you see the military, you see the drag shows, you see as Brandon Showalter. I mean, I could have Brandon on every other day. with news he's breaking about these surgeries. I mean, it's so insane to think that these are not 90-10 issues or 85. I think it's the way the questions are asked, quite frankly, because these are not close calls. The American people do not support this. And now they're rubbing your face in it. As I talked to you earlier today about the executive order they had last year, they signed in Pride Month. They're basically, they've weaponized the government to get him back to this. What is it? The queering of America? They've weaponized it, right? And they're coming after everybody. Your thoughts?
Well, so they're going to move forward with this executive order. They've been doing that for the last year. But what we're seeing in the states is states are now classifying this as child abuse. And what I mean by this, I mean parents who decide to protect their children from gender transitions, hormone surgeries, puberty blocking, even surgeries. States like California, Minnesota, Washington, you name the state, they are classifying that, the parents that protect their children, as child abuse. And they're going to start taking away children from their parents. But what I really mean, though, Steve, when I mean that it's going to get worse, is the propaganda is going to get worse. You think it's an 11 now? Oh, they haven't even begun to try. You're going to start to see puff pieces in CBS News, ABC News, NBC News, where they're trotting out families of transgender children who have to move from their conservative state that's protecting kids, that the state that won't allow the children in that state to be exploited and profited off of by this industry. And it is an industry, Steve. It's $2.1 billion, and that was last year alone, just from the surgeries in the United States, right? $2.1 billion. And frankly, that's a drop in the bucket in our healthcare system. The healthcare system's $4 trillion, right? So this is going under the radar, but $2.1 billion, that's a lot of money that you can use to put back into profits and advocacy and PR campaigns. The propaganda campaigns are going to get a lot worse going forward here.
Showalter, you cover this better than anybody. So, Brandon, where do we stand in this fight right now? Because I got to tell you, like I said, as you guys know, this is kind of not my wheelhouse, right? But every time I have you on, every time Terry comes on about something like this, my phone blows up afterwards. People I know get in touch with me and saying, man, this stuff is bad and it's serious. So where do you think we stand right now?
Well, it is hard to say. Abigail Shrier, who is the author of the 2020 book called Irreversible Damage, the transgender craze seducing our daughters, said not so long ago on her Substack that people talk about the tide turning. Will the tide turn? The reason so many people think that the tide is turning is because the adherents of gender ideology, and I'm paraphrasing her, excel at deceit. So I don't know when or how much the tide is turning, except I can say 1 year ago from today, in the last year, public awareness has really increased. But I wouldn't be slowing down. I think anyone who is of goodwill, whether they are a Republican or a Democrat or an independent, who sees the harm of this ideology, who sees young people winding up sterile and disfigured, they need to keep talking, because this is a particularly venomous behemoth. And we can't depend upon a turning tide, or pendulum swinging, because this ideology is entrenched in the highest levels of our institutions, not least of which is the White House. Big corporations, you see, rainbows soaking everything right now. They are not going to let go of this without a bitter, brutal fight. So in terms of where exactly we are, I don't know, but I do know that the Christian Post will continue to stand on the side of truth and for children's safeguarding. And I'm certainly not going to be abiding by any of these nonsense rules that the AP has put out by telling us that we can't even say the word transgenderism anymore, because that frames someone's identity as an ideology. Well, we're going to discuss the ideology, because as soon as we do, its claims unravel. And we're going to be continuing to hear from increasing amounts of detransitioners, those who have been sterilized and brutalized through this horrible medical experiment, and the fractured families that have been ripped to shreds by this ideology. I think it's one of the worst medical scandals the world has ever seen, and we've only just begun to see the harms of it.
Real quickly, give me a minute. On the bad as the reporting's been, and you've been such a breath of fresh air, how bad will it get, given that the AP has formally changed their style book on this topic?
That remains to be seen. I really don't know. I mean, I'm certainly going to keep talking about it. I think all major networks are probably likely to follow suit. But I think there are more and more, as the polling continues to change, there are probably going to be increasing numbers of independent renegade journalists who are going to find ways to creatively tell the truth. Last time I was on your show, Steve, I recommended the Dead Name documentary, which is at deadnamedocumentary.com if people want to see what this does to families. Indie filmmakers seem to be saving the day, like the Muckrakers of old, independent journalists, other publications like the Christian Post. So even if the networks and the major media follows suit and abides by the AP rules, there are people, there are reporters and journalists and other alternative outlets that are not going to pay any attention to it, probably. And so, I don't know. It's a matter of when are we going to get the corporate media to pay attention to the voices crying out in the wilderness. I don't think that's going to happen anytime soon, but we're going to keep telling the truth nevertheless.
Where did they go to get you?
I'm on social media on Twitter at Brandon M. Show. And then I would also, again, just recommend go see the Dead Name documentary. I was honored to be featured in it. Deadnamedocumentary.com. You'll see the families that have been fractured by this. We need to hear from the victims, and they are foremost among them.
It's tough to watch, but you got to watch it. Brandon Showalter, honored to have you on here. Terry, where do people go? You're fighting this every day. You're fighting this every day. You're in the trenches. Where do people go to support your group and to find out more about your work?
Very simple, Steve. It's AmericanPrinciplesProject.org. We have some new campaign ads that we're getting ready to enroll in the coming months. And you can also follow me on social media at Schilling1776 across all social platforms.
We look forward to breaking those campaign ads on the because your campaigns are amazing on War Room. So look forward to it.
Sounds good, brother.
Terry Schilling, thank you. Thank you for jumping in here today. A fighter. American Principles Project. Make sure you go check it out. Can I play the cold open? I got Doug Mastriano. We got to talk to him about the situation up in Philadelphia on I-95. Can we play the cold open?
Just got some sad news that a human remains were found in that fire. Do you know anything more?
Just what we've seen from the police. I know they'll release more details as appropriate. Anyone who's seen the shocking images knows how serious of a crash and fire it was that ultimately led to that collapse. And, of course, a tragic result. And at the same time, when you consider the amount of traffic that goes over that stretch of highway, really fortunate that there were not more people injured or killed in the course of what happened there. You can see just from the images right there. This is a stretch of road that about 155,000 to 160,000 cars and trucks a day pass over on average, which is, of course, why it is so important to work quickly to get that access restored. And right now, what you're seeing...
Colonel Mastriano, in the Army, he'd be exactly the young officer you go to get things done, right? Don't think so. Colonel Mastriano, please tell us what's going on up in Philadelphia. This whole thing's a little screwy, and this is so important about just transportation of everything, logistics on the East Coast. What's up, Colonel?
A fuel truck from a legitimate company was carrying 8,500 of 87 octane fuel. I guess it was getting onto the overpass to get on the highway on the I-95. Northbound, and for some reason it crashed. The body that Pete couldn't tell you who it was. It's sadly the driver. He died in the flames there. The incident happened around 6:20 yesterday morning. There was a call to 911 2 minutes later, and state police were there by 8 minutes, and they blocked the highway in time to stop traffic from people, of course, that would be crashing down. You saw the video of people driving across the bridge with the flames and smoke on both sides because you have a lot of fuel there that's ignited. There's reports in the area. So, Steve, on one side to the east is the Delaware River, and it's an industrial area. It's like the floodplain. It's all industrial. There's small boat launches there, but it's very industrial. On the other side, to the west of the highway, is residential. And I'm not getting a lot of answers out of the Shapiro administration. Shocking. But we're hearing from the people in the community there. They said manhole covers, at least 8 manhole covers are blown out because of the smoke and fire that went into the sewer system. The smoke, obviously, yesterday was pretty severe. People are being told now, Steve, in northeast of Philly, where this happened, to boil their water. Coast Guard's keeping an eye on, of course, if there's any pollution in the Delaware River, which is right there. They were okay until today when the rainstorms came in. So I imagine we're going to have some problems there.
Colonel, we got about a minute and a half. Walk me through. This thing is so important, so vital. How are you going to move traffic and logistics on I-95, probably the most traveled highway in the nation as it hits into the northeast corridor, sir.
Yeah, this is a big problem, and it just shows you how vulnerable, Steve, our vital infrastructure really is. I mean, this is the main artery into Philadelphia, from the north or south. And Pete got it right, actually, about 160,000 cars a day. It peaks at 300,000 cars a day. My people in the area there in Northeast Philly, a lot of support there. They said that for a 30-minute commute to work into town, it was taking them an hour and a half because now they're detouring them on the secondary roads. If you're through traffic, hop on the Jersey Turnpike about 10 miles to the east, and you'll blow right by this. And then you could probably bypass it instead of getting off of the Betsy Ross Bridge, which is near the incident, and hop over on the Benjamin Franklin Bridge. But the traffic in Philly and the Northeast, of course, is horrendous. We got to keep an eye on this kind of stuff. I mean, it's not that hard to disrupt, of course, our nation's logistics and what have you. We've seen this before. And so I just hope that the Shapiro administration with the federal government can get this repaired in a timely fashion. If I had to guess, I'm going to say probably 2 months before we have the road repaired.
How can people, I know you're giving daily updates on this and sit-reps, where do people go to find out what Colonel Mastriano, because I think people would trust Colonel Mastriano a lot more than they trust the Shapiro administration.
You wouldn't believe what I have to deal with behind the scenes here. It's absolutely embarrassing. When you have a crisis, put aside the politics, Democrats, and let's get together here and work together. The drama is just ridiculous. Go to Senator Doug Mastriano, or of course go to Doug Mastriano Fighting for Freedom, and we'll tell you what's going on.
Colonel, I got to have you back on after tomorrow's fiasco with President Trump and talk about the probability that a fuel truck randomly hit and then it melted down a overpass. We'll save that for another day. We're not conspiracy theorists here, but I need Mastriano to walk me through that, an old Army officer. Colonel, thank you so much. Appreciate you coming on, and more importantly, appreciate you staying on top of this for the War Room and all the great folks in Pennsylvania.
Thanks for having me on. We'll keep you posted, brother. Thank you.
Colonel Mastriano had that first hearing for the folks in East Palestine because the chemicals came to Western Pennsylvania. Now that we're in the Pittsburgh area on John Fredericks Radio Network, we're all Pittsburgh all the time. Okay, we're going to be back here at 10 a.m. tomorrow morning. Tomorrow's going to be a historic day. We're going to cover it wall to wall. Natalie, Mo, Karoline Wren, all of them are going to be down in Miami. I'll be here with Gates. You're not going to want to miss our coverage. See you tomorrow morning.